In this video, I'm going to show you how to do a simple LED mod for the Haemotrope Reactor. Alright, what's up guys? So as you can see, I've got a mess of stuff here on the table. So obviously we have the sprue for the Haemotrope Reactor, and I'm going to go over what we're looking at for all this stuff here, but we're going to get into this and I'm going to do the actual build for you guys. Now, I want to go ahead and take a look for a second at the finished one. Well, not finished. I mean, obviously I'm still painting this Haemotrope Reactor, but you guys can kind of see here. By the way, oh my gosh, airbrushing, so life-changing. But you can see here that I've got it glued together, and the one thing about this mod that I think is sort of, it's a drawback, it's bad, is that you can see that it fits right in there really well, this little LED light. And the one thing that's bad about this is that to change these little LED light batteries, you have to take this backing off, and you're not able to do that just like simply with this mod. If I want to ever change a battery where it does run out, what I'm gonna have to do is actually put this in the freezer and then pop this apart, re-glue it, and then get it back in there. The good news for that though is that it's not a pain, and the reason that I like these little lights is that they're very bright. They do a really good job of containing the light into one spot. They work really well. Now, the exact name of these, I do apologize guys, I actually forgot what the exact name of them is, but you know, you can get a sense of what these are just by looking at it, and if you see them at your hobby store. If you're in the UK, you can probably go to any hobby store, just look for LEDs and look for something similar to this. I got this particular one at Pat Catan's. Now, I've also got some wire sitting here, and let me just say guys, there's multiple ways that you can do this. I was gonna take it a step further and do like an amber LED and put an amber LED in the upper piping and stuff here, but I don't think I'm gonna do that for this. I'm gonna just airbrush it, let the paint speak for itself there. But the eye light mod was just so cool. Like I seen an eye light mod on these, and I'm like, this is not hitting the table without an eye light mod for sure. But you can get this little wire. I also got this wire LED at Pat Catan's in the US. And if I go ahead and turn it on, you can see that it's got these little red lights. Now you can snip this accordingly. These are very cheap, and the batteries are super easily replaceable, and it's very compact, so these are easy to hide LEDs. You can, again, probably find something similar to this no matter where you're at or what country you're in or where you're viewing from. Your hobby store probably has some type of little LED kits like this. So don't be afraid. I always tell people, just don't be afraid to just try stuff with your models, and you can end up making something just really, really awesome looking. So I'm going to go ahead, and how I actually turn this on, or have been turning this on, is I take my hobby knife and I flip it like this, and I just stick the hobby knife in, and I'm going to go ahead and click it a couple times. So green, blue, green, blue, purple. This has a bunch of different lighting options on it. You can even set it to just rotate colors as well. But flick that, and I don't know how well you guys are going to be able to see this on camera, but the eye light looks really, really nice coming out of here. I'm going to flip it back over so you can kind of see. Now, when I was doing this, I had to actually cut out portions around here to make it fit exactly the way I wanted to. And what I used to fill in was like Tamiya model putty. I just put some Tamiya model putty in there to fill the holes back up, so none of the light actually was escaping out of the model. I'm gonna set this down, and maybe I can turn off and show you guys. All right, cool. So you can see much better, get a better sense of how that red eye light looks on that skull. Is that not sweet? That is just a sweet, sweet, sweet mod. And these little LED lights here work really well for it. They're, like I said, they're very bright. They're not, all of these things, by the way, guys, are not created equal. Some of them, when you try to get a sense for it, they do not show up bright at all. This really shines through and gives it that sort of pop to it. And like I said, while I don't remember the name of the specific light for this, I will go ahead and see if I can get a link in the description on Pat Catan's website. So if you guys do want to order this exact specific one, you can. And that's really speaking to those of you who don't mind popping a model apart, a painted model apart, and then putting it back together. I trust myself. I've done that several times. And when this is all said and done, I really want it to be painted up and looking really nice. But I think that because this model is so open down here, I think that it's not going to be as much of a pain to just pop apart and do what I want to do with it. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll change my mind on that. Maybe I'll just let it go when the battery runs out. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. But at any rate, if you turn it off and on, or you've got it on for a few games, these batteries really shouldn't die all that quickly. So without further ado, let's go ahead and just do the cutting into the sprue and get this guy built. If you've never built a Haemotrope reactor before, it's not a difficult build. Now, you can see that the sprue actually sort of broke a little bit already on this, so I do advise being a little bit careful with this particular sprue set. But just giving it nice clippings right there, right close to the edge. This is sort of the case for everything, but of course you want your flat side of your clippers going right against the edge of the model there. Some of these I just pull off. I don't recommend anyone pulling anything directly off of a sprue because it can end up like screwing your model up, especially if you're working with something delicate like resin. Pulling is a big no-no, but sometimes I do it anyway. I was really disappointed because I recently got the Legio Custodes sword dreadnought. What is it? I forget the actual name, but I just recently got that sword dreadnought when I was at Adepticon from the Forge World store, and I really wish I had spent more time on the gates for the shoulder pads because, like, it happens to a lot of people where the gates actually break on the shoulder pads of the model. And Forge World did say they would, like, do something for me about it, but I couldn't find my receipt, and I was just like, it's fine. So what I actually ended up doing was I took a hobby knife and I cut, we had a flying sprue, but I took a hobby knife and I actually ended up cutting into the shoulder pads and sort of modded them out to make them look like they were supposed to be that way, and it looks sweet. Like, it actually worked out. So yeah, again, sometimes, you know, you want to be as careful, obviously, as you can with your models. I mean, I don't know, man. I just lack patience sometimes, and trust my hobby skills enough that I can go back and make things look like they're supposed to look, or put some green stuff, fill stuff in, do whatever I need to do to make it look proper. Alright, so everything is now clipped, and as you guys can see, I usually never do this. This is something that I usually never do, but I actually primed this on the sprue this time. I don't know how I feel about priming on the sprue. Let me know in the comments below. Do you guys actually prime your stuff on sprue, or do you cut it out first and then do the priming? I feel like the little clips that I've done doesn't affect the priming or the coat so much that it makes a real difference when I start to paint it, but everybody, I'm sure, has their different opinion on that, so let me know what you guys do in the comments down there. Alright, so the first piece that we're going to go ahead and take is the skull that we're going to be drilling the hole out of the eyepiece for, and we're then going to put the light right in here. You can see that there is this bumpy, ridgy area around the eye light hole. So when you first put this down, and actually, before we even do that, what you want to do is click this light until we get to the red light we want, and you want to make sure you know which of the 3 lights on here that the red light is hitting. And you're obviously going to want the one that it hits on top, or right in front of, or behind rather, the eye hole that we're going to put it by. Now, you could essentially, we may be able to just go ahead, leave it or glue it like this, and then attach. However, I don't recommend doing that, only because without making the cuts and the holes here, the ridges really do push it back, and you're gonna have a hard time closing this over it. It's gonna leave gaps. It's not gonna look the way you want it to look. So, annoying as it is, we're gonna go ahead and actually have to cut into this. And when we cut into this, it is going to, because this is into the mold, it's going to give us holes that we can see through. Do not freak out. I promise you, this is nothing to freak out about. It's going to look completely nice and natural once we have this cut and then putty it back up with our modeling putty. So, without waiting any longer, let's go ahead and cut into this and get this down to where we want, guys. I'm going to adjust this so you guys can see what I'm doing here. Now, when you're making a cut like this, also keep in mind, guys, that this can be dangerous, and obviously we do not want to cut ourselves. Now, for me, I'm trying to make this visible so you guys can see on the video, but you want to just kind of work the knife in like this. You are cutting into it, so do not lose your patience for something like this, because the second you do that, and then this comes flying through, it's going to slip, and you could cut yourself, and that could be really bad. So I always urge everybody, when you're working with something like this, a knife like this, to be very, very careful with what you're doing, and really pay attention to what it is you're doing. Just very small, slow, simple, deliberate cuts is the trick to this, okay, guys? That was actually a little too quick, probably for safety's sake, that I went there on that cut. But you guys get the point. Just, again, slow, deliberate cuts here. Alright, so you guys can see here that I'm just sort of whittling away at these this little modeling ridge from around the eye light. Now I'm going to take this light back again over here, and we can kind of see we're getting in a little bit, but we really want to get this back part down right here a bit more so we can get the light nice and easy in there. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and stop here for a moment. Try and focus this in so you guys can see that you can see through. You can see through these holes here. Again, do not freak out, guys. This is totally alright. This is totally normal. Your light is not going to be coming through these holes. We're going to patch it up with modeling putty. So we're just trying to make it so that your light is going to sit nice and, I don't know about flush, but as close we can get to flush against this back eye light piece. Alright, now that we have cut this out, whittled this down a little bit, what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and take our hobby drill, and we're going to drill into the eye light of the Haemotrope reactor. Now, I'm actually going to start this, so you guys know, with my hobby knife. You do not have to do that, and I don't recommend going all the way through drilling it with your hobby knife. But if you don't have a hobby drill, you can do this as a substitute. Just know that it's going to take a little bit more careful handling from you to keep your hole looking nice and actually circular if you drill the entire thing out with a hobby knife. Can work. It can work, and it does work not too bad. But it just requires, again, a little bit more finesse of making things look just the way you want it. Alright guys, so we've now drilled out this eyepiece, or eyelight area, and notice that, I want you guys to notice something on this. I did mess up a very little bit on this bottom part of the eyepiece, but this is just a happy little mistake, and we're going to be Bob Ross in this. Don't freak out, you guys. What we can actually do is just take some hobby putty or some green stuff to this, a very small amount of that, and model this around this, even shape in that little piece of that. So if you happen to mess when you're drilling it up more than you wanted, don't freak out about it. It actually can be fixable. And if you haven't ever used green stuff before or used hobby putty before, just use a very tiny amount and just kind of mold it into where you want. You'll be very surprised that it's actually not as hard as you think to get the shape that you're going for. So again, not the end of the world. That is absolutely fixable. You can make it look totally amazing still with a little bit of hobby putty. Just a happy little bird. We're making happy little mistakes, Bob Ross style, when we're 40K modeling in the grim dark future. So all right, now that that's there, let's go ahead and go back to our light. And let's do a little bit of a test fit. Looks like it definitely is sitting a little bit more flush to the back now. So we shouldn't have as much of a problem when we go ahead and glue this to the actual piece of the model. But before we do that, we're going to go ahead and get hobby putty so we can plug up some of these holes. And actually, what we're going to do after we put the hobby putty on is hit this again with a coat of primer so that it's going to be exactly how we want it to look. Because when you go to paint this, when you're airbrushing or whatever you're dry brushing the color on, or you're putting... I never really paint white with wet brush, but maybe you're good at that. I am not. But if you're doing that, you want to make sure that you've got primer on the putty so that it doesn't look messed up when you go to do that too. Alright, so we have our Tamiya model putty, and I'm going to go ahead and get some of this out. You will notice that I am wearing a glove. I don't recommend doing this with your bare hands. I'm not sure how toxic this kind of stuff is, but it is a real pain in the butt to get off of your hands if you happen to get it on your bare fingers. So don't recommend it. I have done it before, just being lazy, but if you can avoid it, you should probably avoid it. So we're just going to go ahead and just work this in there. Just like take your finger and just work a very tiny little bit of the putty at a time. I've already covered up one of these holes here. We're just covering it, patching it in, patching it in. All right, and boom, just like that. See how easy that was, you guys? You see how easy it was to put that model putty in there? Boom, covered, covered, and covered. And it's gonna, when we go to glue, this is gonna not be completely dry yet, so it's gonna have an extra bit of stickiness to hold the light in place for us too. You can now see that, well, maybe you, I don't know if you can see it or not, but you can see these white patches sort of around the eyeball now, the eyelight area. Hopefully that's, yeah, there we go. Hard to get that to focus, but looks like we maybe missed a little bit of the part down below. I'll patch that up. One thing about this Tamiya model putty is that it does have kind of a strong odor to it too. So again, I recommend possibly just being safe and using something like a tiny little surgical mask. So we're going to go ahead and hit this with another coat of primer, and we'll be right back, guys. And we're back in black, Chaos Black, just like that. We'll give this another few minutes to dry, but you can already not even tell where the holes were. The Chaos Black back on there. This looks just like it did before. So again, we'll let the paint dry a little bit more, and then we'll get right back into gluing and fixing, positioning this light. Alright, we've got our light now, now that this is dry again. And we've got it positioned to where this red light is showing. What we're going to do now is a careful exercise of gluing. So this is going to be sort of hard to tell when I'm doing this around this light. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the glue around the edges of the light here. So not directly on the light, but just around these edges of it. And the reason I like using this particular glue, the Rapid Fuse, is that it is a bit more, it has like that gel control to it. I don't recommend using a watery liquid glue for this. You want something that's going to give you a bit more of that gelish control here. Okay, we've got a pretty good amount on the light itself. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn it right upside down with the light. Make sure it's coming through good on this end. Alright, that looks pretty good. And this is an exercise in patience. Now when you've got it pressed down to the light, pressed down to where you need to be, this is where you're going to go in now with the glue and actually squeeze this glue into where the light part is of the LED. Okay, now, and we're going to hold this here. You can use activator. I do use activator, but, you know, I've been told horse shit like real hobbyists don't use activator, stuff like that, dude. Sometimes activator is just really convenient. And, you know, it's not everybody's got the time to sit there and wait for glue to dry. But, yeah, I mean, you could use activator here. I don't think it would really matter. Obviously, having brittle connections for your models can be really bad, but in this instance, we really want to have a good, strong bond for this LED mod here. If you need to, guys, you can take something like and put it next to the light while it's sitting up to hold it in place so you don't have to sit there and wait. The reason why I'm keeping the light on is that it really gives you a sense of where most of the light is going while you're gluing this into the Haemotrope reactor, because you don't want it to be drastically off, have this set, and then look at it and have to be in that position of the paint being a paint where you got to pull this back off and then put it back on the model. So again, that's why I'm keeping the light on while we're waiting for this to kind of dry and set, and we'll let it set and then we'll come right back to it. Okay guys, so we've now let the glue set and we'll come back, and really there's nothing much left to do other than put your glue around the edges of your Haemotrope reactor. And you can see here, this is very easy. Just this actually went on even easier than my other, or the first mod, probably because it's angled a little bit, which is okay. You don't have to get it right perfect, but you can see, guys, this just closes right over top. No gaps, nothing. You hold this with the glue down, that is it. You are good to go with your little Haemotrope reactor eyelight mod. There you go. I'm going to go ahead and activate the light again so you guys can see how it looks through here. I've got the only small thing that I'm going to fix with this is that now I have to go back and actually adjust just a very tiny bit. around the eye light just because I'm a perfectionist like that. I could also, you could do that as lol battle damage too. So by all means, you guys don't have to get this right spot on, right perfect, but boom. Look at that. Amazing. Now, if you really wanted to get fancy, you could also just go ahead and get some small magnets and maybe magnet around the edge of this. I hesitate with something like that. I mean, you could cut. What I would do is I would actually cut off these little nubs and make those small magnets, and then put small magnets all around this. That's a little bit more than I want to do. If I really want to get back in there, I have no problem freezing it and popping it off. This would pop apart so easy, and then changing the battery out and whatever the case may be. But there you have it, guys. Just a simple little light. I will get the links down in the description for you of the hobby lights you can get at Pacatan's hobby store. Check your hobby store if you're local hobby store if you're in the UK or you're somewhere else. I'm sure you can find something similar, but a very nice, just awesomely fitting, very cool LED mod for your Haemotrope reactors. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you on the next one. Oh, and before I forget, I am making some slight changes in progress to lighting up and making the void shields. So make sure you guys tune in for that video. It is going to be a super cool mod. Once I perfect the one I'm working on, I will do a how-to video and show you guys, or walk you guys step by step, how I did modded up the lights for the void shield. I got it from a friend of mine on Facebook, so of course I'll be crediting him in that as well. But it's just a very, very cool mod, and hopefully I'm able to get everything down so it looks really, really nice, and we'll be able to put that up for you. If you enjoyed the video and you like watching the channel, you enjoy our 40K podcast, please subscribe to the channel. Click that subscribe button, that like button, the share button. Give us a comment down below. It really helps the channel out, and we appreciate your support. Have a wonderful rest of the day, Wargamers, and see you on the next one.